Hi, I'm Paul Warren.
And I'm Ryan Klein.
And this is another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies. Ryan, how are you doing on this beautiful day?
Paul, I'm good. You know how I'm doing. We've already been talking for 20 minutes.
Yeah, but our listeners want to know how you're doing.
Well, I was probably opened up by complaining. I wasn't really complaining, but it's just been a long day. Technically, I woke up at 2 a.m. Eastern time. I was in Paris. I was doing a speaking over there. And then, it's been a lot of traveling. Was on a long flight. Fortunately, it was business class. Business class is pretty cool.
Oh,
I think
nice.
It was my first time doing it.
And what were you doing in Paris?
This is kind of a podcast in itself. No, not really. I'll make it as brief as possible. Basically, Facebook has been doing what are called accelerator programs for journalists all over the world, and it's trying to get them a little bit more acclimated with some more digital aspects of what they can be doing to promote their content that they're doing and give them kind of a chance to get in front of more people and going up against the big guys. So they're bringing people from all over the world to come and speak. And I talked about content marketing. I talked about some basics of SEO, some advanced SEO tactics, some paid tactics, and a little bit about user experience and conversion for 50 French journalists for an hour. And it was nerve-wracking because not every single day you get in front of people in a foreign country, but pretty great experience.
Well, it sounds like a cool experience that you had there, and I'm sure we'll do a podcast about it.
Sure.
Stuff that you covered there.
Yeah, you like public speaking, though, right? I mean, public speaking, number one fear for people probably pretty much across the world. It's good to kind of break out and do it out. It's not every day I do it. I think you really enjoy doing it, though, don't you?
I mean, I don't know. I think comfortable and enjoying it are two different things, but
Yeah.
But for all of our listeners out there, we actually have a really, really great podcast tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about how to rank for near me searches. So if you've done any amount of research on the volume and the popularity of these terms, regardless of what industry that you're in, just take whatever it is that you're selling for your business. If you actually have like a brick and mortar business, and type in that and near me and into Google Trends, and go ahead and take a look at that, and you're going to see it be skyrocketing over the past couple of years. So it's so important. Google's so much better now at knowing exactly where you are, and that is what we're going to be covering today. So this is our top 5 optimizations for ranking for near me searches.
That was a good intro, Paul. That was one thing you didn't mention you were going to say prior to us starting, is that you're absolutely correct about the Google trend and the trend going up in near me. Is that something that we looked at together, or is that something I did in a blog like 6 months ago and we didn't talk about?
I don't know. I was just recently looking at some of them just because I like to see where the trends are. I was looking at some just a couple of days ago, and I was just like really amazed at the amount of increases for it, and it's still increasing now. So
I think it kind of supports a little bit about what we've been talking about as far as voice search, because I think that ties in pretty well. I mean, we're not going to get too scatterbrained. We're going to hone in on these 5 things, but you can kind of see that link. Near me, Alexa, Siri, asking questions to a device.
Yeah. So there's several reasons that you want to rank for these terms. The biggest is, hey, it's going to make you money, but it's going to be used across different devices for search. So without further ado, let's break down into the 5 spot. Ryan, go ahead and tell us what that is.
We want to talk about structured data. If you ever want to reference a great podcast, like a truly great podcast, when we talk about structured data, we did have a fantastic podcast, truly one of my favorites in a long time, anytime we had an expert guest has been a good podcast, but Jeff Atkinson was fantastic with Huckabee, and that is a podcast dedicated strictly to structured data, but structured data definitely comes into play with what we're talking about now. We were reading multiple blogs, and watching some videos. So I wanted to get an idea or a pulse what other people's ideas were of, trying to optimize for near me. And I was kind of surprised that people don't talk about structured data that much, which is surprising because it's just all this additional information you can give to Google.
I think I saw it in just one blog post out there, and it was from like 2 years ago.
I find this alarming. Well, we've been kind of gleaning this information from blogs that are really recent because the near me is kind of a recent phenomenon.
Yeah.
So,
but we also know how to do it.
Well, that's good too. So yeah, of course, we're not just like reiterating or regurgitating anything. We were just kind of just reinforcing, I suppose, what our stance
Yeah,
was.
we just wanted to see if there was anything new out there too. That's you got to stay up to date.
So structured data is surprising that a lot of people don't talk about it. I'd say probably one reason is people don't really get it still to this day. But structured data, has entire fields and parts of the overall like code that dedicate to coordinates. So it's just like you don't do that for their health. Google doesn't do anything implicit unless there's like a real reason. So depending on the category or the type of structured data you're using, I believe that there's an entire structure dedicated to location solely. I'm not sure if that you necessarily have to use that one, but depending on your kind of business, you're going to fill out your business name, the URL, hours, like some of those general things. And then there's definitely dedicated fields specifically to like latitude and longitude. So you have to surmise that is for a reason.
That's right. There's also some things that you can do that maybe are a little outside of the box than what you're thinking. So it's not always just like, hey, marking up latitude and longitude or putting in Wi-Fi coordinates or whatever. Some of it is like, hey, if you're hosting a local event, that's just like one more thing that you can tell Google that like you're a local business and you're in this area. So that's like another thing that you can like take advantage of that a lot of people really don't.
Yeah, we're both looking at that particular example. Can you walk through real briefly like what you see and what people can kind of be looking out for when they're thinking about this featured event schema or structured data markup?
Yeah, I mean it's just like any other one where if it's a person, you're putting their name. It kind of leads you through it. Just what's the name of the event, where the location is at, the time of it, if you have a registration link, things like that. It's pretty straightforward, but it's just the fact that you go in and do it, putting like the work in to do it. Maybe you don't even have an event. A lot of people just don't even have an event that they can think of, but a lot of places that we've worked, especially like in law firms and stuff, they always have something going on where they're hosting, whether it's for like a charity or, who knows. So there's tons of like opportunity to take advantage of this. You don't even really need people to come to the event.
I was kind of thinking the same thing.
To like crawl it and know that you're in that location, you have this event. So keep that in mind.
When we're talking about it right now, and this is like good because we're getting in the swing of things, because honestly, we haven't done a podcast in like 3 weeks. Was this officially season 2 of SEO's Dead and Other Lies?
Yeah, season 2, we're back.
I'm not going to say that we're rusty by any means, but we're getting back in the swing. It's been kind of the biggest gap we've had in a bit, and we're going to get right back into it. Don't even worry about it, guys. But anyway, the way I kind of look at schema and what structured data and what's available out there that people aren't taking advantage of, the way I look at it is almost like how people sort of abuse like AdWords, where it's like you can go in and you're like, okay, cool, I can do site links, and I'm going to add like A, B, and C, and I'm going to do location extensions, I'm going to do call extensions, I'm going to do all these things, right? And before you know it, you have like a Google AdWords position that has like 50 things going on, and you're just dominating the top of AdWords. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you can kind of just, I'm not saying you're exploiting it or you're abusing it, but it's all available.
You're just using it to fill it out. Capacity. Yeah.
So it's like you're just filling it out, and you're just going to have more opportunities for very unique and like eye-catching visibility in SERPs. When you do like there's a review schema specifically that stands out. When you start to do these events, that stands out. Just it's every opportunity. It 100% ties into the near me too, and I think that you'd be completely remiss not to look into this.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about one of my favorites, and that I've just recently started doing. I got to tell you, it's worked pretty well. And that's discussing landmarks and streets, or really giving like detailed directions. I'll even add in like putting in areas served on your pages, on your landing pages, your local landing pages. That's what we did. It was a pretty manual process. So if you have a lot of locations, it can take a lot of work. But I think it just gives you like a little more reach. But one thing I really liked is kind of writing out really specific directions from like major roads, like just start from like whatever major highway is closest to like your business location and like map out like the directions to like get there and post that.
Yeah, and that's interesting. We've talked about this in the past, and we agreed with it, and I think that was a little eye-opening for us in the beginning, where it's like, here are actual directions, here are relative directions. Naturally, when you're writing about relative directions, you're talking about a lot of things that are tied into a very specific geography, like streets and the highways and the landmarks. So we talked about that before a little bit, but specifically like this landmark and neighborhood angle is new to me.
Yeah, I think just being, because you get to write out a lot of streets in the area on the path from whatever that main road is to you. And like also, here's the reality of today, right? Like there was a time where you could rank throughout an entire city for your Google My Business listing, right? Like you could be in the rankings like anywhere in Orlando, whatever. But Google's so much better at knowing where you are. You really are just looking at dominating street areas and not an entire city anymore, unless there is no other. The only way you can do this is there's no competition in your city for like whatever you're trying to rank for, in which case, good for you. I don't know if you need to even listen to this podcast. You'll probably just rank in the top spot anyways. But
if you follow our directions, yeah.
Congrats.
Or directions or advice.
You don't even have to verify your listing. You're probably just good to go. But in most places, you have to beat out competition, and you have to beat out whatever local SEO agency is trying to like push people up to the top there. So really, what you can expect is a radius around your business and kind of like street areas and neighborhoods to dominate. And that's just how it works now, right? And so I think anytime you can expand the level of streets and like neighborhood areas that you can cover, like write that stuff up and like put it on your site.
Yeah. Did you say that you started doing this?
Yeah. We started doing basically within like the major subdivisions and neighborhoods and areas around our locations. We put that on each of our local landing pages.
When are you going to know that it's officially making a big positive impact?
We did it months back, and we've already seen a real positive growth.
Your first.
Yeah.
This is prime example of great advice, then.
And actually, I stole it from one of those like businesses that are franchises for oil changes,
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's a really good idea.
Paul, you come up with this on your own.
No, I took it from someone else, but I just did it a little better than them, actually.
Oh, okay. You're on SEO island all the time. We don't even know what's going on. We just imagine this is how it works, and then it
But
doesn't.
I haven't written detailed directions like what we're giving you advice to do here. Almost like think back to like when MapQuest was a thing, and you could print out the map version or print out the like the text version of how to get there. Like, think about the text version. Like, that's what you want.
I don't know. I still use MapQuest.
Well, I don't know, man. Do you have BlackBerry too?
No, I don't do that. I'm just joking. Cool. Yeah, I really like that, like kind of the new iteration of taking directions to the next level and including some of those landmarks. I just think about Orlando, and I just think about Lake Eola being like the third step of every direction ever. It's like, and it's always a right or a left or up or down at Lake Eola.
Hey, you take 4 lefts from Lake Eola, and you're back in Lake Eola. Bang.
Oh my goodness! Watch out for the swan; it's about to bite you.
All right, so that was our 4th. If anyone's keeping track of the countdown here,
What was our second? It's number 4.
It's no particular order. Just do 5 things, whatever. So our next one is actually optimizing photos. So if you know a moderate level about SEO, you probably know about optimizing for your alt text on your images, but we're going to take this a little step farther than that. Ryan, why don't you walk us through it?
Yeah, you wanted to put me on it because we definitely discussed prior to the podcast commencing that I didn't exactly know exactly the thing you had to do to the photo.
No, I just wanted detailed instructions.
Well, how about this? How about this? I'm not going to be able to tell you like right off the bat verbatim how to do it this moment, but what you're going to be able to do is use your trusty buddy named Google and look up how to add geocoordinates to photos, because that works. That's one of the things.
I'll tell you how to do it.
Well, what do you do? So you put it in this thing, and then you right click, and then there's 18 fields you didn't even know existed, and you unhide them, and then you do this and that.
Yeah, that's a thing that you can do. Yeah. Or you can use a GPS-enabled camera. And then when you take pictures, I think iPhone GPS enabled, actually.
I believe so too.
Yeah.
Well, you know why? Because that's like the same reason when you take pictures and then you like upload it to Instagram, it's already like asking you. There's some instances where it tries to pull in a suggested place of where you were based off of your actual GPS location, but sometimes it pulls it in based off of the images you just featured.
Yeah.
And it's because of that reason.
So what we're getting at, though, is if you have a GPS enabled camera, which most phone cameras today on a smartphone are, that's just the first step, right? What you want to do next is you want to find some place to upload this. Any like image share, like free image sharing site will work. Flickr is like a perfectly good example. There's tons of websites where like you can just post like free photography that's fair use to like whoever, but it's going to give you, when you actually upload that stuff, it's going to give you the ability to like write anchor text or even like link back to your site, stuff like that. Those are all just opportunities to like build links to your site.
Oh yeah. So you're saying that's kind of like a twofold or
Yeah.
more of a reason to do it.
And another thing you can do is you can make a folder in your like Google, like your Google Drive, and then you can just like publicly share it. And then you got some kind of like citations working from your images that way too.
Wow, Paul, always 2 steps ahead,
I know.
It's like I just can't do one task and get one result. I have to do one task and get 3, 4, 8 results.
I want all the results, the 1 through 3 results in the rankings. That's me.
So I will definitely confirm this is something that we started doing for our clients in the past few months, and there's been a slight correlation with them being featured in 3-pack more often. There's just something about this optimization of photos, taking the concept optimizing photos, taking a step further, and then it just seems to kind of add to, I guess, the whole, geographic presence of you.
Yeah. And nothing. I don't think anything that we're going to tell you is going to be like the silver magic bullet here. It's just you got to do all of them. Like I would do all of them and then expect to do well, and I wouldn't just do one of these things and think that you're going to be at the top.
Agreed. I think that's one thing we're really good at saying too, is like anything we say, it's not one thing; it's always going to be multiple things, but they're all going to lead you to that point where you're going to.
Yeah, with the exception of buying really good links.
Well, that could actually just make a huge impact right away.
That's about the only thing that's like a magic bullet to like get you to the top of the rankings.
I like the magic bullet. Every time you say that, it makes me think of like small cups of smoothies.
That's weird. It's a weird thing, man.
Isn't that what it is?
All
and
right.
silver is like the new kind. It's even nicer. But yeah, it's definitely worth looking at optimizing photos, seeing what's available nowadays. It's kind of like structured data. It's like a thing where people do it like a little bit. That was really like the whole hunk of my conversation. It was like people don't realize how extensive it is.
Yeah.
And people don't do it. Like optimizing photos, people are just like really quick to do some like meta. They do title, description, some on-site photos. They think that really the extent of that is an alt tag or text, and that's it. But no, photos are really going beyond for sure. And they probably have for some time too. Because when you think about it, if there's a whole Google Images, what are they going to just pull like the title of it and alt? There has to be more to it.
Yeah. All right, so good advice on that. Make sure you're doing it. Check it out. There's tons of resources out there for free image sharing websites. We're not gonna list them all. We were talking about.
Well, you can't think of any off the top of your head anyway.
No, just Flickr. That's it.
All
right, so let's get into, in my opinion, which will probably have the biggest influence of anything that we're listing out here, and that is acquiring local backlinks. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's a million ways to do it. I'm going to just talk about some of like the low hanging fruit ones that anyone can do. First one is the very first place that you start. Search whatever thing is you're selling. If you're a lawyer, criminal lawyer near me, whatever, and see what directories are showing up on the first page of the SERPs for that term, right? Do that and make sure that you are on that directory. That's the first way to get like a local backlink, because Google is already telling you that it values that website for those terms.
It told you.
Yeah, it's literally telling you.
In its weird cryptic Google language.
Yeah, of rankings. So that's where I would start for sure. Now, I think it's a pretty known fact, right, that there's a hierarchy of links here in the world. Usually the .edus and the .govs sit atop that hierarchy because, frankly, they're kind of hard to get, right? And they're very trusted websites.
Yeah.
So my little strategy of getting some .edu ones, right, is if you own a business or whoever you work for owns their business, right, they could be considered successful to some people, usually to the college that you went to. So, you just reach out to whatever college that you were at and you see if you can get a link from an alumni page or who knows. There's a million things like that on those sites, and they're usually pretty easy to find. But they usually give you a backlink or they'll do a little story about you or they'll do a blog post or whatever. And that's a good way to get a solid .edu backlink that'll live there for a long time.
Did you get your UCF backlink yet?
No, they've disowned me.
Did you get your tavares.hs.com backlink yet?
Oh, I got so many of those.
So, I mean, one thing I'll say about, of course, .edu, .gov, I mean, hyper important, the closer, proximity to where your business is, I'd imagine, are the better. But they're not always like exactly proximate. So, what are some approaches for local businesses to maybe like link to other local businesses? We're like talking about perhaps maybe even hyper local at this point.
Hyper local. So if you're a local business, you probably do business with another local business, right? Maybe it's a lawn company. Maybe it's the people that deliver your paper. There's a ton of different opportunities for you to like reach out to people that you partner with monetarily and see if they'll give you a backlink or something like that.
Straight up. We can do like a really quick refresher, some things that made sense in the past. Any events that are local. We've talked a little bit extensively about 5Ks.
Yeah.
which we do like talk about sponsoring. You can get like 10, 20, 50 local links. I mean, imagine that. Those
are super easy to get. Sponsor something in your city. They almost always link back to your site from there. It's really, really easy to do. We totally recommend doing that. And then the piece de resistance of .edu links is for like $500 a semester, you can offer a scholarship and you can get links on like any of the community colleges in your area, state colleges, big time universities. What you want to do is just make sure they're like in your city or at least close to your city, something like that. If it's in your city, that's ideally what you want.
Oh man, breaking out the scholarships. There is an alternative if you don't want to sensationalize and get that big, gigantic check with the student's name on it. If you're not about the giant check.
Actually, if you're not doing that, then forget that we said anything. Okay? You can't.
No, there's an alternative. And the alternative that we've done a couple of times, which makes me feel a little bit better than doing this whole, how I feel about it, is doing like an essay contest is cool too. It's a little bit more like low key, but it can still result in the same thing.
Yeah. And then also don't forget about maybe doing like a PR with your location information in the PR. So your name, address, and phone number, and link to your GMB profile. That's what I always do.
So giddy about that. One thing that I always kind of thought was important as far as really local links, from besides the fact that like the websites are saying that they're local, like address wise, this is obviously a business that's very close to this one and it's linking to it, but it's also important consideration for the server itself, in my opinion. So people that are hosting their websites locally and link to another website that's also hosted locally, I think I don't want to sound too like convoluted or complicated, but I think that's important. And that's kind of goes a little hand in hand with getting links from websites that are hosted overseas. Because if there's a reason that it's really far away, it could also come into play when it's really close by, if that makes sense.
I think there could be some upside to doing it, but I also think that I see so many examples where like especially like with franchises where everything's hosted at one place,
Yeah, no, that's true too. I mean, I'm just trying to. That's just me, trying to connect the dots here and there, not like in a conspiracy theory way, but just like how do we get the edge way?
Oh, but also I have a couple of pretty cool ones too, that no one's doing, right?
Ooh, except for everyone listening now.
No one is doing these. Okay. So you know what geocaching is?
Oh, sure.
You know what you can do? You can put a geocache at your location and then tag it, and then you get a link from the geocache websites.
Oh, really? But do people still walk in and like put like love letters and baseball cards in it?
Yeah, I mean, you got to put like a really small one, but it's just the whole thing that like you can literally geotag the coordinates and like your location information and stuff, and like get a free link.
That's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
wish we could just sit around and think of other things right now.
And then the last thing I want to mention, because it's so easy and such low hanging fruit, is like there's so many websites where you can list like your free Wi-Fi, and then you actually get to list like the actual coordinates of your location. And so that's a thing that you can just really easily do, like multiple times, and they're usually pretty good, like authoritative sites.
Oh, one interesting thing that I thought was going to work, this is a big time experiment I did, I think about a few years ago, and being that it didn't really work, I don't really know why I mentioned it because it didn't work, but I want to get people thinking.
Maybe don't do it.
Well, how about I'm going to mention it, and it's going to sound like a good idea, and it doesn't sound like there'd be a reason for it to not work, but it just doesn't, but there are reasons why it may not have worked. So, embedding the map of your business on other websites as opposed to like a link itself is something I haven't really seen work, but there may have been reasons why it didn't.
Oh man, I am just the opposite. Anytime I've ever done a map embed with the NAP info, I've seen it increase in rankings.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a little bit because that's important to like discuss this if it's something working. I think that the reason, I'll just preface real quick, I think the reason that it didn't work is because they were going up on websites and it was an app, it was embedded in it, and it was like done properly. But I think that wherever it was being done, I can't recall right now, it just simply was not being indexed at all.
Well, there's your problem right there.
Or I mean, I'm guessing it wasn't, but there was a strong feeling of it not being indexed.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that's the issue, then obviously it not being indexed is, you're not going to get any juice from that. So, but anytime I've done this, I've honestly seen big increases in my local rankings.
What do you say it's one of the bigger
Actually,
strategies that you have?
I always suggest that you embed your map on your landing page for your whatever you're using on your website.
Oh, yeah, that's obvious. If people don't do that, they're stupid. No, I'm joking. But yeah, you definitely should.
Yeah. But if you get map embeds on other local sites to you, I think it works insanely well.
So, like I said, I think one of the reasons in retrospect was because I purchased links, or I purchased like these opportunities to embed on other websites and it didn't index. Let's just talk real quick to listeners. I think that there may be a lot of listeners that are like, well, I've built links and I've bought links and I've done all this, but I have to take another step to index it? Like, how do I know if it's indexing? Am I wasting my time? And I don't think we've really talked about this before. So let's just talk real quick about ensuring that your links that are valuable are definitely being indexed.
Well, the first thing that you want to do is you want to see if that URL is indexed in Google, right?
Okay.
So if you know the page that it's on, you just do a site colon, whatever the domain is without the www, and then the URL, right, for that link, and put that in Google and search it, and it'll give you the results for that in the SERPs, right? So if it's not showing up in the SERPs, it's not being indexed.
Sure. So, alternatively, you should be able to put in quotations too, correct?
Yeah, you should be able to do that.
Yeah. So if it doesn't show up, it's a pretty good indication it's not indexed. Like
if it doesn't show up in the SERPs, it's probably definitely not indexed. So what you want to do if that's the case. So it's either maybe there's a technical issue, maybe it's it just depends on how you got this link, how the website that it has it on is structured. There's a lot of ways to get something crawled. Generally, if traffic's coming to it from other sources, think about it like, Google then has to like jump from something to crawl it, right? So if it's not crawling it from that website that it's on, you got to get it to crawl it from something else. I like to link out to that article from a blog post or something that I have, and then do a nice in Search Console, get that, do an index request, and then it usually will crawl it pretty quickly.
Yep. I like that one. There's some services that all they do is simply drip like indexing. That's something you could just like look into.
You can use that. I mean, I don't know if anyone here is building dozens and dozens and dozens of links that aren't getting indexed. If you're in the link building business, more power to you. Go ahead and use them. Some of them don't really work anymore. Some of them do. But for like the small business owner that's not doing a whole bunch of spam link building out there, this is an easy and free way to do it.
Yeah. And if you buy links for any reason whatsoever, or if you've got really great links in the past from doing the sponsorships or doing white hat, we don't call it white hat anymore, right? But
no,
if you've gotten links and they haven't indexed and you're like, oh crap, like that's lame, I spent a lot of time trying to get that link, just shoot us a message and we'll go into it further. I don't want to get hung up on it. So before we go into our last point, I think this is like a decent point to kind of reflect for a moment, because just ranking locally and coming up for local keywords is just so similar to this near me phenomenon. And I'm still, trying to extrapolate what the official differentiation is, because I'm kind of saying that I half know, but I'm half like reflecting. It's like, what about these optimization techniques is just really different from just trying to rank local anyway?
I mean, honestly, really, they're just to the extreme, right? So we're going to end it on kind of something that you can do that usually does kind of work.
Kind of work. I love it.
Usually does work.
It kind of works. I don't know.
It works. So like a part of this is just good housekeeping, right? And it's just staying on top and making sure, we didn't really dive into like, hey, make sure your GMB is optimized.
Oh yeah, we made a very specific point not to be like, let's talk about reviews and filling out your profile, because like with us,
I think it's a given for you, right? So,
and if it isn't, it's your first time listening, we've been talking about it forever. So
yeah,
help yourself.
Yeah, we didn't want to get into like optimize for mobile, because you should already have done that, and there's a lot of other reasons than trying to rank for near me searches that you would optimize for mobile, right? Probably lower on the list is ranking for these searches. So, the last thing I think is on-page optimizations. And so we're going to talk about this because we don't want you to get too keyword stuffy, spammy. But I honestly think there's plenty of opportunities to like kind of add this stuff to your pages, whether it's in like the metadata, like your page titles, or if it's maybe like an H2 or just somewhere within like the text. I think there's like natural ways to add this information in there and not really look super spammy. And I think there's like internal linking opportunities from other pages that you can do this, that a lot of people aren't doing that at all. Like most of the pages I ever look at that rank for near me searches, they do not have any actual text on their pages that have that. And I think like this is one of those things that if you did it, you could probably like beat these other guys out.
I think this one, you can take this one a little bit with a grain of salt. I think that we've straight up joked about in the past, but there's some truth in it. And yeah, let's go into it. So it's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're just saying like maybe an H2, maybe it's like, I don't know, car repair near me instead of near you.
The way that I've put it in the past, and it kind of sounds like cheesy, but like, why not try it? Is like, you're like, have you ever just like wondered, is there a great dog sitter near me? And like, just like, like,
I'm like, I know it sounds stupid, but you got to think that the majority of the content on your webpage, especially a local landing page, is probably not really read, just depending on like the type of niche that you're in. Like there's so much content on pages that isn't read at all. That's really just glanced over to get you to like the point of sale or like the point of conversion or whatever you're trying to do anyways. And the person that's reading it doesn't care. So, a part of you has to kind of be like, I got to write for the search engines in a way, but also, don't write like an asshole. I guess is what I want to say.
I mean, like I'm thinking about right now, and there's ways you can definitely do it that come off kind of naturally. Here's an example that's much better than my first one is, let's take Orlando Dentist, for example, because we love Orlando. We talk about it, even though I'm in Seattle now. But imagine you had like a classy H1 that was just like, when you think Orlando Dentist near me, think the name of my dentist office. Like it could be like almost like a tagline.
Yeah, I think there's like opportunities, and then from other pages of your site, or like maybe you write a blog post that's talking about something local, and you use like that anchor text for like to find a great attorney near you. Click here, and like you make that whole anchor text like the link, and then you link to your page.
Well, Paul, at least we've had him up to this point, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I left. This is just kind of like food for thought. It's just thinking like, creative ways to do it. Someone will figure
I'm
it
saying
out.
like
they'll message us
without looking like your keyword stuffing.
So the first 4 are on point. We're confident. The 5th one, just screw around with it and let us know if it works.
That's why they call it the art of SEO, Ryan. Okay.
It's the art. It's the finesse, and it takes panache, and it takes courage.
It does. Lots of courage. Lots of keyboard warrior courage right there.
Oh man. So yeah, I think that sums it up. I definitely. It's been a few weeks. I'd love to recap a couple things real briefly.
Go ahead.
If we're done talking about that, do you want to talk about anything else? Any other takeaways?
No. I think we can. I don't even know what you're about to bring up, man. This is like our listeners.
Nothing like crazy. Just a couple interesting takeaways. I thought it was interesting in France that Bing doesn't exist, and then Google usage there is over 90%, and mobile usage is over 90% too.
Man, so Bing doesn't exist in France. I've never been jealous of France before until right now.
Well, like when I say doesn't exist, like just it doesn't matter. I'm sure it's there. No one uses it. People like I didn't realize that, I guess is what I'm saying. I thought it was very interesting that like it's Google, don't talk about anything else. That's it. So that's what's up. And that's probably the case in a lot of places.
How do they pronounce Google in France?
Oui, oui.
Oui. I knew it.
They're pretty cool. They asked me, you want to hear some of the questions they asked me? They're good.
Yes.
Very good questions. I was like...
Well, we're going to have a podcast about this soon.
Yeah, so the questions I received when I was on stage, trying to get through an hour-long presentation, just me, the questions were, if I have a pop-up, does that affect my rankings? Which has always been a good question. And I said it depends on how the pop-up is programmed, and also how you've been able to see where the crawler approaches the pop-up and stops, or if it just crawls the page as normal and then the person gets stopped by a pop-up, more or less that kind of answer.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, dude, that was your answer?
I actually have a real life issue that happened literally today that we had to deal with.
Oh, let's just talk about it real quick.
Yeah. So I don't want to give too many details about like wherever I currently work whenever I do this podcast.
I'll tell them when you're done.
So, but what we had was, I was noticing over a 6-month period that our mobile rankings were decreasing for certain pages, but our desktop rankings were increasing, right? But our conversions and stuff were staying flat. And then I looked at these pages in Google Analytics and mobile, and the bounce rates were like twice what they were 6 months ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking like, well, whenever your mobile rankings go down and your desktop is going up, that's got to be some sort of like user problem, right? So it's either like, hey, you have really, really low load times in mobile, or there's some really bad experience or something like that. And so they had changed the way people basically interacted, and they made appointments, and they had this pop-up come up right as you clicked on a page. So we had all these pages that were ranking. They rank really well organically for like certain terms. And then when you're on mobile, you click on it, this pop-up prompts you to tell you your location, and you can't see anything on it until you put in your location.
Oh, bummer, dude.
Yeah. So I had two theories. One was that Google wasn't able to get past the pop-up, and it wasn't able to crawl the page with mobile first indexing, and so the rankings were being hurt by that. Just because it was like getting like the mobile spiders were getting stuck right there. And then also at the same time, the user statistics were way, way worse. So it was dropping the rankings for that as well. So that literally happened to me today.
Wow, so timely, so important.
I know, right?
Breaking news. So those are things that they were talking about. I thought that was interesting, especially since they're publishers that rely on pop-ups to do great call to actions to encourage free trials. So they're like, the marketing team is trying to, really convince the development team, like, we have to have pop-ups. I need that. We need to increase conversions. And the development team / like SEO or tech, IT, whatever the hell you want to call it, are just like, we don't want to do it because Google doesn't like it. So that was pretty interesting. Got a question about Google Trends. They said a lot of people really liked Google Trends over there because you can definitely use it in France or France. And they said that they like it a lot, but they just are really confused that it's kind of like relative to 0 to 100. And it's just like, it's hard for them. I don't want to generalize French people, of course, but like the person in particular that asked couldn't get their head around like how much it was trending, because at the end of the day, it's like a 0 through 100 and it doesn't like quantify exactly how many people it is.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of tough for them, but I kind of talked them through that. Got a question about, because they get so many different sources of traffic. Like, most businesses are used to direct, referral, organic, paid, social, maybe like a newsletter, and like maybe a couple other things. But for them, it could be like, who even knows, right? So they have a lot of difficulty with traffic getting bundled together, and it's hard for them to split it out. So like they might be running a bunch of campaigns and doing a bunch of things, and then 4 different sources get pushed together into direct. And they're like, I don't know what the hell to do. So that was pretty interesting. Because these people get tens of thousands of visitors a day.
Yeah.
It's news. So that was interesting. And then the question I absolutely evaded completely in front of everyone, because it would have been a lot of stammering, because my background on it is AMP. They're very interested in AMP.
Interesting.
And that's accelerated mobile something pages, probably. So I just frankly don't know enough on that, but I should research it.
Yeah, AMP can be really big.
Yeah, AMP. We should let's do a little bit of research on AMP. I think that'll be interesting. The only reason I don't have a lot of background in that in particular is because we've failed to implement it correctly twice for Market My Market, and I'm like, F this for now until we figure it out.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal right now, actually.
It's a big deal. Yeah, it is a big deal, and I completely get it. But the issue is you can do it absolutely incorrectly.
Yeah,
very easy.
You heard it here first. Come back next week, guys, and listen to our episode on AMP.
Yeah,
Accelerated mobile pages.
I'm amped. I'm Mountain Dew amped for that one.
Amped on AMP. All right.
And then our last thing is we had a dude from Denmark that sent us a message on Facebook, and I'd like to answer it real quick.
Okay.
All right. So you want to read the whole thing?
Sure.
All right, absolutely. So I'm going to message him back and say, hey, listen to the most recent podcast. I'm going to answer your question here, because that's how we want to do things. So, hi, Paul and Ryan. Just discovered your podcast the other day. It turns out it's pretty much the one podcast I've been looking for. I'm not going to plug the rest, but he basically says we're awesome. Okay, I have a question, and would like also the free link. Oh, I mentioned that, so I have to give him the free link.
Oh.
All right. Kind of a background. So, my business partner and I just closed a deal the other day on a huge company, departments all over the country. Basically, we're building websites for that niche, and we're trying to rank for the 50 biggest cities in the country. 50 biggest cities in Denmark.
Okay.
I don't even know there's 50 cities in Denmark. I'm joking, but I can't imagine there's.
All right. 50
anyway.
Cities.
How would you guys approach such a task? Would you just build a site separately and then maybe a link circle from the site to site, so kind of like a link wheel?
No.
Well, no, I mean, I absolutely disagree with link wheels. So, okay, let's just say that out of the question, link wheels are not a good idea. All right, next one.
Yeah.
Or would it be better, more beneficial to create one website and make individual subpages for each city?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, based off all our podcasts, we're huge proponents of one highly authoritative website with subpages that are geographic. We are all about that. The microsite strategies are kind of out the window. Plus, who wants to build 50 websites?
Yeah, I think like you don't want to have to worry about driving authority to to all those websites, to 50 websites, right?
It's not
So
it's maddening to think about
yeah,
that.
have one authority website, and then if you want to do link building stuff to each of the individual landing pages, because also like some of the cities that you're in, like the level of competition might not be like that great, anyways. You might not have to build a bunch of links to it, but you're going to get like all of the benefit of like the domain authority of like your main site, right? So yeah, build out one legit website, and then make sure that you've structured like your directory structure for all those landing pages is really, really good. I don't know if you guys have states or whatever it is over there. I don't know how it works, but in America,
they have parishes like Louisiana.
Parishes, yeah. In America, right, we have like states and then cities, and then
you're in America.
But it works the same way, right? Like, I guess the best way to look up a directory structure over there is go to an actual directory and see like how they have things listed out for businesses in that area, and just kind of copy that in a way, But you're kind of like getting larger to smaller is the best advice I could give to you, because like that in and of itself, right? It's like telling Google exactly where that location is. I think it does an even better job than just having like a microsite for there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, 50 is daunting. I mean, can you imagine like all the URLs? It's like blah 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 this city, blah 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 this city. It's like that'd be insane. So the URL structure will be simple: .com or whatever .whatever / locations or / cities we serve, or / whatever you would call it in Danish, and then each individual city. That's the way it works. You build authority to the main domain. It'll definitely flow down into the sub pages, and you'll be good.
Yeah, that's our advice. I absolutely would do that.
But super cool that we got the Facebook message from Denmark. That's freaking awesome. Appreciate it.
And a free link.
Yeah, I'll send the link. Just tell me where you want. Just respond to this after you listen to the podcast. I'll send it somewhere. I'll send it to your client. How about that?
Yeah.
We'll start building authority for that website you're building.
But great question, though.
Yeah, it was a good question.
I'd love to answer them. Yeah.
Yeah, we love the geo strategy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to be back, Paul.
Good to be back, Ryan.
It was nice chatting with you. I'm going to go to Chili's now.
Well, hey, man, you have a good time. But, hey, why don't we do a good job ending this podcast first before you go?
You want to edit this podcast?
No, what I want to say is, hey, thanks for all our listeners out there. We really appreciate you guys, and be sure to like, share, subscribe if you like what you hear, and then hit us up online or on email. We're on Facebook. You can go to our YouTube channel. You can leave us comments, or you can email us at seosdeadotherwise@gmail.com. And we love to hear your questions, and we love respond to them. And hey, maybe we'll have you on if you're interesting enough.
Well, that's what we were saying, that we had 2 guests on our previous, not even that long ago, and both of those podcasts I think were not only fun but extremely informative. So we're all about guests.
They were very interesting.
Very, very interesting.
So that could be you.
And you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks so much for listening. I'm Paul Warren.
And I'm Ryan Klein.
And this has been another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies.
Au revoir.
Bye.